We are still we adjourned our executive session and came out into open session. The executive session we had was to discuss a possible contract with the FOP. No vote was taken, obviously, in the executive session. No vote is scheduled to be taken this evening either. So we are at the moment where we will take public comment if there are members of the public who'd like to come forward for the purposes of giving us information. Anyone who'd like to come forward and speak on the issue? Mr. Gunn, give us your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Lamar Gunn. Good evening. Address.
We're going to ask to limit comments to about 3 minutes. You have a timer on the screen. You see it.
Okay. Thanks for having me. It's been brought to my attention, based on your agenda, that there is discussion on a tentative labor agreement between the city and the Fraternal Order of Police. In light of what I'm sure most of us are aware of, the Officer Webster trial, and having some experience and familiarity with that incident, I could tell you that it seems, or it's in the public's interest, that we allow or we handle that situation with the agreement with some level of transparency and involvement from the community. Whatever has happened that has led us down this road, I would say that we learn from what our mistakes have been in the past and not keep doing the same things expecting a different result. With that said, I believe the public should have some sort of view as far as the labor agreement that's on the table, so that we can actually see what's being proposed and what you are seeing and planning to vote on here, I guess, in the coming days. I don't have all the facts, and I'm hoping that the public, like myself, can learn the facts so we too can participate in issues affecting this great city. With that, and having a relationship with the current chief and the previous chief, Hosfeld, I would say things that I was made aware of, I've tried to share as much as I possibly can with members of the community, but as servants of the great people of Dover, it shouldn't even come down to things being relayed through me. Let's just have an open government where all parties who are stakeholders, in my opinion, can participate in decisions that, in my opinion, are major and affect us all. Clearly, we see there is room for us to make some significant improvements as to the agreement, this particular labor agreement with the police department, and possibly the powers of the chief, possibly the mayor, the city manager. I really don't know. But that's why I'm asking. I'm here today. I'd like to create, or at least start, some sort of positive dialogue as to what the contract looks like, where improvements can be made, if any. I believe there are some improvements that can be made, where we might be able to prevent situations like what we've recently experienced here over the past year to year and a half with the Officer Webster trial, the incident involving Mr. Lateef Dickerson. I don't have to go into the specifics of that. Everyone's aware of that. My position is just that we learn from that and make amendments to the contract if there are any, and that's where I stand. My question is, how and can the members or residents, each of your constituents, will we be permitted to see the contract? And I don't know who can answer that. And if you could post it to the website.
Yeah, when it's brought forward for the public vote, it becomes a part of the packet that we provide for that meeting.
The tentative labor agreement that's listed here, are we not permitted to see that?
By state law, it's prohibited from being shared until it's ready for that public vote.
Okay, and when would the public vote be held?
I think we tentatively have it scheduled for our next council meeting.
Monday?
Monday 14th.
All right. How do members of the public voice their opinions as to the agreement? Can we not see it beforehand? We have to wait until it's presented and then come Monday without much time to review it?
Yeah, that's the procedure.
Okay. Is there a special committee within the council that's reviewing it to be prepared for the vote? Is there a special committee reviewing the?
Council meets as a whole to discuss it as part of our executive session.
All right. So, and I think I just want to be clear. You're saying, I want to understand you correctly, members of the public will not get a chance to review this document before it's scheduled to vote on Monday.
Members of the public will be are invited to be here on Monday when it's brought forward, and at that time they can listen to the presentations that are made, the questions that are raised by their elected officials.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Councilman Hausfeld?
Mr. Gunn, the
Gunn.
current contract is on the city website. It is available, the current contract, just so in case you're not aware.
The current
The
contract.
current contract.
Is it identical to what's being presented? Can you say that?
I can't speak to that.
Okay, that's fair enough.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak on this issue for the purpose of providing input? Ma'am, if you could please provide your name and address for the record.
Sandra Dyer, 600 West Division Street. I am hoping that after viewing the tape of the police officer, that he will not be put on walking the beat in Dover, Delaware. And I hope that the police chief has the power to make that decision. And if not, then your contract needs to address that. He treated a human being as if he were a dog. And a professional should have some self-control and should have been trained to know how to handle a situation and handle his own emotion.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Sir, if you would provide your name and address for the record. I'm going to
Anwar.
ask that we talk about the contract itself.
Anwar Dyer, 52 Trayburn Boulevard, Camden, Delaware. So I'm not going to be as articulate as Gunn or my mother. I'm simply going to say I'm not going to ask either. I'm going to tell you guys that it's going to be very important that you keep Webster off the street. It is not safe for any officer, personnel, us as citizens, for an officer like that to be on the street. My kids walk the street. I walk the street. I have family members that walk the street. And I implore you to make sure you guys look for the best interest for everyone. I just want to make sure we're clear on by you making that decision to put that officer back on the street. Fair warning. I'm not articulating as Gunn. I'm not asking. I'm demanding that you guys make the best decision or there's going to be consequences. That's it.
Ma'am, thank you.
Dr. Kimberly Milligan, and I would like to say that it's important that all the power doesn't lie in just one person's hands. So whether it be just the police chief or just the mayor, I think that more hands need to be on deck when it comes to hiring and firing. And so I believe that it's important that whatever's in this contract that you guys are talking about, that you don't leave the power just in one person's hand. The public should have a say, and those who represent the public should have a say in people getting hired and fired. And so all I want to say is it's not just the duty of, I think it's not just in the interest of the Fraternal Order of Police to be in charge of hiring and firing police officers. I believe that others have a say as well, because it seems a little bit biased to just give all of the power to one area or to one person or to one group. Let's spread the power.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Officer Webster is a pig.
name is Enrico Stratton Bay. And when it comes to Mr. Webster, I think if he gets back on this police force, it allows the community to see that they have no rights, that the council really don't care about them. I think that it's also going to show that you're giving the police the ability and the whereabout to say that it's okay to continue the actions that they've been continuing for the last 20 years, per se. It's been longer than that, but we're going to just go back 20. I don't think that it's reasonable to look at a video and say that it's justifiable to treat citizens, regardless of their history or whatever, to do what was done and say that it's legal to do it, regardless, in uniform or out of uniform. Because we know that if one of us outside of that uniform had committed an act like that, we wouldn't have got the same play that he got. And most of the time, when a defendant or someone is on trial, usually the victim is there. The victim wasn't there. So again, that's a misconduct within itself. Because if an ordinary citizen would have done that, there would have been a warrant put out for them. There would have been threats made that they needed to be there, or they would have been prosecuted. What they call it is, well, an injustice or a miscarriage of justice, because we know that was no fair trial. And again, if he's back on that force, that's telling the community and the citizens of Delaware and Dover that police have the right to attack citizens, whether they are in a felony-prone position or if they are in a vehicle being snatched out. This is the history. It's not changing. It has to start with y'all. Again, don't let us think that we don't matter. Because, again, we see all around the country, there's a lot of things happening. We don't want that here. Our grandbabies have to grow up in these streets. Our children have to grow up in these streets. Do they have to face that? I don't want mine to face it. Because if that was my son, ain't no telling what would have happened. I'm just telling you. We got to change it now. We can't wait for 5, 10 years from now and say somebody else going to come in and change it. Y'all been given the document. Y'all been given the opportunity to make that change. I'm hoping y'all do the right thing.
Thank you, sir.
I can't believe I'm standing here. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Can I ask you just to give
My name is Cecil Coleman, 28 North Queen Street, Dover, Delaware. I thought we were in Dover, Delaware, and I was being compared to Mississippi. And I said, that's strange. We are being compared to Mississippi? How dare this community, this Dover, Delaware, allow what has occurred to persist? The injustice that's so visible. I cannot get over the visibility of the injustice of showing. We saw that on the dash cam, and people have something's wrong with their brains. Something's really wrong with the brains, especially of that so-called persons of the jury people. They were peculiar looking. I've never seen a group of people look like that. They were supposed to be our jurors, but there's something wrong with that group. Absolutely, I can't prove it. Something's wrong with that group. Now you have these gentlemen here. You have the ability to make a correction. It's in your hands. I mean, nobody else at this point. Nobody else. The FOP has big money to do what they're doing, to keep things going. This person, Webster, who has a history, and I'm looking at the police chief, everybody, how does that work? History of all kinds of complaints for years, and nothing was done. Now this occurs, and nothing is done. It's in your hands. It is in your hands to make the correction, not be Mississippi, because we're certainly in Mississippi today. but it's in your hands to make the correction that he does not go back on the force or back on the streets. It's a slap to the community, a big slap to the community, to think that this man can walk around here and be an officer, and you're trying to build community relations. How do you build community relations with your police when you allow this to occur? So it's in your hands. I don't want to be in Mississippi any longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
And it is truly an honor to be here talking to you. And what I'm looking at are fathers.
I get you to give your name.
Oh, my name is Lillian Rogers. You want my address?
Please.
67 Lynn Drive, Dover, Delaware. I'm looking around at fathers and brothers and sons and grandfathers. I'm looking around at people who I hope will decide to turn the page today. We have not had good relations, the African American community, with the police, with the city of Dover. But you get to decide right now for us to start anew by sending a message. Sure, you got off of this, but we won't tolerate this. We do not want those types of people on our police force. Mayor, I speak to you because you're in charge of the chief of police, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You hired him. So, if you're in charge of the chief of police and the police officers doing what they're doing, then you could fire the chief of police, and he has to clearly understand that if you're not taking care of all the people and keeping them safe, you won't keep them on board. And I believe that's in your heart to do. I believe that it's in all of your hearts to do the right thing. If anybody saw that video, you know that verdict was not the right thing. We can't do anything about that. But you get to decide today, Monday, whether you're going to do the right thing. Fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, mothers, you all get to turn that page. And I'm hoping you'll turn it for all the citizens. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Rita Page, and you need my address? 355 Rita Wilma Road, Dover, Delaware, 19904. And I, too, concur with everything that has been said and trust that those whom we have entrusted to be a voice for us, those whom we have elected, will do the right thing and not have Officer Webster back on the police force. As a mother of a young African American male, even a daughter, it's not just the African American males who are being threatened now, I believe the females as well. I personally have some reservation and some slight concern and fear about the safety of my children, even as they walk the streets, and my nephews and nieces, and for all of the young people in this community. I am not convinced, because of yesterday, I am not convinced, even if our young people do what the police ask, that justice will be served, that they will not be harmed. And I think that the videotape clearly showed that. And I think that in order to keep peace, really we need peace in the community. we really want to build relationships with the police, but I think that this has knocked them down. Just as in a marriage, when people get hurt and you have to rebuild trust, this is what you're going to have, including myself, going to have to really rebuild trust now. And I'm not even convinced that all of the police officers or those in charge really agreed with what happened yesterday. And I do believe former Chief Hoss felt that you had him arrested or wanted to?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So I hope that you will stand for what you really believe. I know if I can even offer a passage of Scripture, if you're a Christian of faith, that we are required to do justly, to love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. And I trust that you will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Carol Dyer, 52 Trayburn Boulevard, Camden, Delaware. I also agree with everything that everyone has said. And I think that this is an emotional subject for everyone, particularly people of color, black folks. Every morning, you guys don't have to wake up and determine whether or not somebody's going to look at you, whether you're going to have to steal anything, whether you're going to have to, you don't have a conversation with your children about make sure your hands are in your pocket or out of your pocket, whether you have to say yes, sir, or no, sir. You guys have the luxury of not doing that. I am telling you, my kids are straight A students. We can teach them everything that we can, but what we cannot control is someone firing at them, someone shooting them, because Officer Webster was able to change how he looked. I can't change the color of my skin. And so it's important that you guys try to do the best that you can to not put anyone in the position. Look at your hiring process. Put people of color that understand, not the training. I've seen some of the training that you guys have. It's not even appropriate in the way that you guys are teaching, because we are always looked at as a threat. And it's not fair for my child. It's not fair for anyone else's child. And I'm only asking to please consider, I'm not even asking at this point, there's so many of us that are tired. I am disgusted. I was furious. I was hoping yesterday that I had 1% hope. My 14-year-old said, she's like, they're going to find him not guilty. Why? Because we heard Tamir Rice at 12 being shot. Ayanna Jones sleeping. John Crawford. I mean, the list goes. Sandra Bland. I am Sandra Bland. We all, my son, my daughter, we all are those individuals who have, just by walking, by getting a traffic ticket, but yet McVeigh and everyone else that have murdered and have caused chaos, they're white and they can walk off and they can have, they're not shot at. We don't have that luxury. And I'm angry and I'm hurt and I'm asking to please do not put that man back on the streets. It is an insult to me. It is an insult to these families out here. And I am just passionate about this, and people are watching, and if we will do whatever it takes to put pressure in this community to make sure that the right thing is being done. And I agree. I'm tired of the praying, because praying has not brought anything but just continuous chaos while everyone gets to shoot around our kids. That's all I have to say.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Fred Talbert, and I know everybody in this room. And I want to thank City Council for allowing us to come and address you at this time. You didn't have to do that. But as you have heard, there are things that people here have to say because they have strong feelings about what has happened. And it seems like it's the culmination of a lot of things that has been happening. And as we read the newspapers and we see what's going on in this country, We don't need to let it happen in Dover. These things have a tendency to get out of hand. We have a council that has their heart in the right place, but they may not do the right thing all the time. And so we need meetings like this to just make you aware of how the people feel, and that's why I'm here supporting that. And again, I want to thank you for letting me address you and let you know how we feel. That's very important. But we do look to you to do the right thing to protect the African American community who's being abused unmercifully and unnecessarily. And I think you all will agree, enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Elaine Parker, 95, Pear Blossom Lane, Camden, Delaware. Justice should have no color. All we're asking is that you do the right thing. Do you realize that we have to rear our kids differently from the way you rear yours? We have to tell our kids certain things that you never even probably think about. Example, I had a coworker a few years back that we were at a multicultural training together, which there should be more of, because just because we don't look alike doesn't mean that we don't think alike. We have more in common than we have different, and so we need to understand that. You look beyond what a person looks like. There's no doubt in my mind that if that had been a black police officer and a white male, he would not have been convicted. No doubt in my mind, and that's a travesty. I know that within my heart. And with all these cases across the country, it proves that. You know, there's cover-up, there's all this, and how can we're trusting the people that we pay to work for us and for our best interest? It's just not right. We just want the right thing to be done. Do the right thing. There was no, as I sat there and I listened to what was going on and you know, trying to see beyond, you know, just the video. Well, you were aiming at the upper torso. Well, why were you kicking at all? You had two police officers with guns there. You know, it was just a travesty. Just unbelievable, except I was not surprised. I was hurt, but I was not surprised. We need to treat people the way they need to be treated. It doesn't matter what you look like. You know, justice is justice. But that's not the way it's happening. And you all have a chance to, we've got to start somewhere, because this is hundreds of years back. This has been going on for years. And we know that. Some white people might be surprised that, oh my God, now they see that, oh, I can't believe that. You know, had there not been a video, you wouldn't have believed it, and it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't even have come, you know, as far as it came, wouldn't even have been reopened, which I don't even know what happened prior to that when it first happened. But for as long as it's been, it should have been addressed. Something, was way wrong. We've got to stop it. We've got to stop it. We know what's going on. Don't insult our intelligence. Stop hurting our kids, hurting our families. And when I tell you that, you have no idea. And unless you come together and find out, you have no idea. You just don't. And the case I was trying to tell, just an example, with a coworker I had many years back. We had a multicultural training, and the presenter mentioned something about, you know, going into stores. How many of you have gone into stores? I think I might have been the only African American in the training. And you've been followed. So I raised my hand. There's not an African American in this world that can't give you a case of discrimination, bias, prejudice, mistreatment in every area. Employment, everything. We know. It's not one in this world that would say, oh, that's never happened to me, if they were to be honest. And I raised my hand, they looked, and they were thinking, followed? Well, why would they, what do you mean followed? So they asked me to speak and I said, oh, absolutely. I've had it happen to me lots of times. You walk into the store. You know, I thought when I was younger that they were being helpful. But they weren't being helpful.
They were following me to make sure I didn't steal something, because that's the stereotype. You know, that's it. And do you believe, about 2 weeks later, I was at work with my coworker, and she came to me and she said, Elaine, okay, then I'm going to finish this statement. Elaine, I can't believe, I was in the store this weekend with my mother, and 3 African-American males came in. She said, I've never noticed this in all my life, and it probably has happened, but I never noticed it, and if I've not been there and heard that. So I'm just appealing to you guys. We've got to come together, understand, and fix this thing, because treating everybody equally, or at least justly, will be a better Dover. It'll be a better world. It's got to start with us. You've got to do the right thing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Claude O. Tolson. I live at 34 Heritage Drive, Dover, Delaware. And some of the older officers around here probably know me, because for a lot of years I was in a lot of trouble. I knew a lot of cops for the wrong reasons. But what's happening today is totally a travesty of justice. I've been arrested by cops who was concerned about my well-being, what was going on with me, why I wasn't in school, why I don't have a job. These cops today, and not all of them, and it's bad, you should want them out of your force. They give the rest of the good ones a bad name. There are cops who just ride into the neighborhood you're in, and just because you live in that neighborhood, they think you're a piece of shit. I had an officer tell me, because I lived in Wackoe Drive, that I need to get a job and quit selling drugs. And at the time, I was working 2 jobs and going to college. But just because of where I was living at, he automatically assumed that I was a drug seller. And that cop is still on the force today. And every time I see him, my blood curdles. Not because of him, it's just because of what he will make someone do to him, because of the way he treats people, just because of the color of their skin. Now, there has to be something in this new contract that allows you guys to weed out what's not good. Because if it doesn't, you need to understand that it's just not going to stop here. It's going to fester in our community with our people, and then it's going to revolve right into your people. Remember, you got kids, you got grandkids. They have to interact with people of this color. And if we go back to the old days where we start having hate for each other just because of the color, who's going to protect your kids, your grandkids? They have to interact with us. Do you want this thing just to get like it's happening all over the country? We have to stop it now while we have an opportunity. That gentleman getting found not guilty was the most travesty of justice that I've seen in my lifetime. That was just, anyone who will watch that videotape will see it. I cried because that could have been me. That could have been my son. I have a 22-year-old son who was arrested a couple months ago because he was in Wacko, charged with 5 armed robberies. I paid $5,000 that I didn't have to get him out on bail. And not without going to court one time, all 5 charges was dropped. Where's my $5,000? Where's the justice in that? Because they knew he had nothing to do with it. Just a simple fact that he was in Wacko. If you guys don't stop it, some people will try. Some people will succeed. It's just not right. Come on, man. Injustice to anyone, anywhere, is injustice to everyone, everywhere.
Hi, my name is Pern Sparks. I choose not to give my address for fear of my safety and my family's safety. I'm a father of 12 kids, 8 of them which live at home. And what we seen and what we witnessed with the outcome of the verdict was just pretty much a smack in the face. I agree with everyone who spoke here, and I definitely agree with the other gentleman that said that, you know, when that officer does hit the streets, he may run against the right young people, because we do have a lot of young people that really don't care. But I think that we have a problem with our kids hurting each other, and we would like good officers. We'd like good officers that we can trust. I don't want to give my address because of my fear of my safety. It's obvious that I can't trust the system. The system has failed me. The system has failed my kids. Like I said, I have 8 kids, so I worry about that. I worry about sending them to the store. Because what happens if they just go to the store, Officer Webster comes on the scene, someone else sees Officer Webster, recognizes what had happened, that he got away with it, and bullets are exchanged. I never thought that Dover, Delaware was that type of area. But I never expected this neither. I always considered this to be lower, slower. And that's what I call this, because it was such a nice place to raise kids. This was the place to raise a family. Not anymore. Not with this gentleman getting off with something like this. I can understand you have a job to do as a police officer, but you also have a job to protect and to serve. That was not protecting nor servicing. I understand that maybe he felt threatened, but anyone in here will not feel threatened if I come to you on my knees. I disagree with the outcome. I don't think the man should have a job. He has no right on anybody's police force. Not just Dover's police force, on anybody's police force. It's an outrage and a smack in the face to me and my family. We disagree, and I pray for you all to not let that man have a job. I know if it was me, I've been fired. I've had hundreds of jobs. Been fired from them all for just the little things. I didn't know that disorderly conduct meant anything that makes somebody turn their head. You can sneeze, and that's disorderly conduct. Well, that was surely an eye turner.
Seeing how there's no one else to come forward, I want to...
That's one more question. Mayor Christensen, are you going to look to see if you can get him out of here? On record, I just want to know what your plan is.
As much as I'd like to comment, just rest assured that I will take the appropriate action.
I've heard, Mayor, you and I shook hands before about the Fletcher issue. Things kind of changed up. Is this time, are you going to give me your word?
I'll do the best that I can do, and that's my word.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So there's no one else to come forward. I want to thank everyone for their patience and their civility this evening. Thank you for coming out and being heard. We're going to entertain a motion to close this. Councilman Anderson?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question. Regular council meetings are normally televised and posted to the website. My question is, will the audio of this meeting be posted for public record?
Yes, as a matter of public record, yes. The public portion of it, yes, it will.
Public portion, so it will be added and posted. Thank you.
We typically don't post the audio, we post the video, but we will figure out how to post the audio for this.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Sutherland?
Will we need a motion on that action to post it or not?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's...
Okay, I just
We'll
want to
make sure of that.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to close this special meeting of council.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Neal, second by Councilman Anderson. Is there any other questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and we stand adjourned. You give us 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to switch and go into our 6 o'clock meeting.